In this lesson, we're going to talk about texture and surface stretching on our models. All right, in our example here, you can see that we have a cube, and this cube has a texture on it. You can see just a nice grid pattern on here. And if you look at the geometry that I have, I've got a couple extra support edges here, just so we can get a nice round bevel on there. And if I hit the 3 key, what you're going to notice is up here we're going to get a lot of stretching on this texture right here on the edges. All of this remains okay, but we get a lot of stretching up here. So if I go and I look at my UV texture editor, you can see what's going on here. If I hit the 1 key, here's those edges. There's the edges right there. But when I hit the 3 key, you can see that it really stretches that information and puts a weird kind of arc pattern on it. So there's the difference between smooth and non-smoothed. Alright, so we need to find some ways to fix this information. So as we've talked about before, when we have a point on a surface and we hit the 3 key, those move because it's having to look at all of the neighboring vertices in order to average itself out. So this one right here, you can see is moving all the way to there. It's quite a large distance. And what's happening is we have a UV coordinate set right on top of every single vertice on this surface. So if the vert moves, then the UVs are going to move as well, and we're getting stretching in our texture. So what we need is we need some support edges in here to help that out. Now what I would do in a scenario like this is I would immediately look at these big long polygons right here, and you can pretty much tell that you're generally going to have an issue with something when you have really long narrow ones like this. And so we need to go in and split this up a little bit just to give it a little bit of support on each of these edges. Now you can do this manually, or you can go in and do this a little bit more precise if you wish, but frankly for stuff like this you're probably not going to notice. So I'm just going to grab my insert edge loop tool and I'm going to put one right here in the middle, and then I'll put one there and I'll put one there. So just trying to keep the same distance here, and we'll put one there and one in the middle there. Alright, let's go to object mode, hit 3, and we'll hit 6. And you can see that that totally took care of that entire problem just by giving it a little bit of extra information there just to help that surface out, getting rid of all those big long polygons. Alright, on this next one, you can kind of see the shape that we have here. And I'll go into our side view here. We've got a nice straight edge right here, and we have a nice straight edge right there, and we have a nice straight edge in the middle. And then we've got all of these bevels here that are giving us nice round edges on those. Now if I hit the 3 key, you can see that we're completely losing the shape up here. It's fairly round up there. And down here, same basic idea. We're coming out of our bevel and it's not a straight line. We're actually getting kind of a sloping line here. And so the same principles that apply to the texturing are going to apply to this one as well. So let's go back into here and let's grab our insert edge loop tool, and I'll put one right in the middle. Then we'll just do this side over here. I'm going to put one right there, just kind of keeping those polygons evenly sized. So this size right there. I'll go ahead and do one right there, and then maybe we'll do a center line in there. Same idea here. We're going to put one there, and then we'll just split this a couple more times just to lessen that distance between those. And I'll hit the 3 key, and you can see now that it maintains a pretty flat edge on those. And there you can really see the difference between the ones we didn't do, because you can see how those are sloping up. So much better result on giving your mesh just a little bit more information, just some edges to support what it's trying to do when it smooths. And really what this comes down to is you really have to know your production pipeline. You have to know that everything that you are doing is going to affect everybody else in the production pipeline. For example, if we turned this model in like how it was, and it goes to the texturing department, they're going to texture this, and they're going to have to deal with all of that stretching texture that you had there. And so that's obviously not going to make them very happy. And if it didn't get fixed in there, then it's going to go to the rendering department. They're going to render this object, and they're going to catch all of the texture stretching at render time. Then it's going to be sent back to the texture department, and then the texture department is probably just going to send it back to us to fix it anyway. If you look at characters or anything like that, that's going to have to be animated and it's going to have to be rigged. All of our models that we send over to those departments, it's going to matter where we have geometry. And so we really have to support the entire production pipeline when we are building our objects, whether it be texturing, animating, lighting. We can get weird artifacts on our models if they're not correctly in the lighting phase. And so we really support the entire production pipeline. All right, so there's a look at two different things that happen to your models when they're smooth. We can either have texture stretching, or we can have surface stretching where it's not what we intended. And we now know two different ways that we can go about combating that problem. See you in the next lesson.